tariffs are the most beautiful word. I think they're beautiful. It's going to make us rich.
So what if I told you that just a few weeks into Donald Trump's presidency, the real estate market could be in for a big shift? So whether you're buying, selling, or just watching the market, the next few years could change everything that you thought you knew about real estate. So stick with me as we walk through all the policies and how these policies might impact housing prices, mortgages, and even your next move. So today what we're going to do is break it all down so you can understand what's happening and what all these changes can mean for you. So there are 6 massive changes that you need to be aware of if this is your first time here. My name is Kaz. I'm a local real estate agent right here in Atlanta. And if you've been here before, I want to welcome you back. Also, I promise we're going to talk about the ICE raids and how these raids will also affect real estate. But first, let's start with the big picture. Trump's policies focuses on growing the economy, but some policies also bring a huge amount of risk. So one of the main concerns is going to be inflation. So inflation is when the cost of things go up over time. And I think that most of us have already been feeling this squeeze over the past few years. The experts believe that inflation could increase because of Trump's focus on unorthodox policies, right? This means doing things like tariffs, which are taxes on imports, and those tariffs could make goods and materials even more expensive than they are now. And for real estate, this means higher costs for building homes, higher costs for everything, right? So if it costs more to build homes, obviously prices for new homes will go up. And this could definitely impact buyers who are on the fence or already trying to keep costs low. Another factor to consider is the immigration policy.
We're tracking down the illegal alien criminals. We're detaining them, and we are throwing them the hell out of our country. We have no apologies, and we're moving forward very fast. They're very dangerous people. You know, I think my campaign, I really focused on the border more than anything else. A lot of people said the biggest thing was inflation and the economy, and then maybe the border was third. I always felt the border was first.
Trump's stricter immigration rules could lead to fewer workers available for construction jobs. So construction jobs heavily rely on immigrant labor, so this could lead to a labor shortage. And if there's a labor shortage, this means delays in building and higher costs for some of our developers. So now let's talk about interest rates. So the Feds recently cut interest rates, which can make usually borrowing cheaper, right? And this is good news for people looking to buy homes because it makes mortgages just way more affordable. But there's also a flip side. If inflation keeps going up, the Federal Reserve might have to increase interest rates later to balance out the economy. And higher interest rates could make it more harder for buyers to afford homes in the future. So we've got to be thinking about what happens next.
George, look, there is a lot of confusion this morning about what exactly this directive means, but it may be the most far-reaching executive action this White House has taken yet. It could potentially halt hundreds of billions of dollars in federal spending on everything from assistance to farmers to Head Start programs to disaster relief and public transportation. In a memo describing this, it was obtained by ABC News, the White House Budget Office has ordered all federal agencies to cease any financial assistance if they believe the program might conflict with President Trump's executive orders. The directive is not specific about which programs would have to be suspended, but it's clearly far-reaching. It says, quote, this memorandum requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements.
So another big topic is going to be federal funding. Trump has temporarily frozen federal grants and loans to review government spending. This could impact programs that help people afford housing. In Atlanta, some nonprofits that work to fight homelessness rely heavily on this type of funding. And without federal support, these programs might struggle to help as many people as they could in the past. So affordable housing is already a challenge in Atlanta, and this could make it even harder. But let's zoom in on Atlanta's real estate market. So Atlanta has been growing fast with more people moving here every single year. But with rising costs and possible funding blocks, the market might face some changes. One interesting thing, though, is Trump's plan to sell off office space, federal office space. And this could create opportunities for real estate investors in cities in and around Atlanta. If these buildings are repurposed, it might bring more commercial spaces or even some more housing options. That being said, these changes will not happen overnight. And that's because after every single election, real estate markets take time to adjust to all these new policies. Now let's talk about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So these are companies that help make mortgages more affordable to new home buyers.
Yes, and it is coming from X. Investor Bill Ackman, who is a major shareholder of Fannie Mae, has been tweeting about the possible emergence of Fannie and Freddie from their conservatorship, which they were put in during the Great Recession. I want to read you a couple of the quotes from his post on X. He says that what makes them particularly interesting today versus any other time in history, there's a credible path for their removal from conservatorship in the relative short term, that is, in the next 2 years. He says a successful emergence of Fannie and Freddie from conservatorship should generate more than $300 billion of additional profits to the federal government. Now, that's why you're seeing the stock surging right now. But I'll tell you, I did an interview very recently with Mark Calabria. He was the head of the FHFA, which is the conservator of Fannie and Freddie, and he was the one who, with Secretary Mnuchin in the first Trump administration, tried to get the two out of conservatorship. He told me they shopped around a plan that they wanted to get an explicit government backstop for the two, which are, of course, the biggest backers of mortgages in the U.S., and they could not get that. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and it all got sidelined. He says this will not be a first-year priority for the Trump administration, but maybe a second or third-year priority. He says that there are ways to get them out of conservatorship because, as Ackman is saying in his posts on X, they have gained considerable capital. I want to read you a quote from that interview. He said, "I think the concern is that there are underlying problems that are being missed, that is them being in conservatorship. We have a mortgage finance system that works really well on the upside, but is it prepared for a downturn? And again, while I'm optimistic about the overall state of the economy, are we putting the taxpayer at risk?"
Trump has talked about privatizing these companies to create more competition. Some people believe that this could lead to better options for buyers, but others worry that it can make mortgages even more expensive. And if this happens, it could be harder for first-time homebuyers to afford a home. For Atlanta, this could mean fewer people entering the housing market. So let's recap and look at the local impacts once again. So Atlanta has a unique mix of challenges and opportunities in real estate. On one hand, we have a healthy and growing population with a very strong demand for homes. On the other hand, rising costs and policy changes could slow things way down. For sellers, this could mean needing to price homes a little bit more competitively to attract buyers. And for buyers, it's important to plan ahead and understand how these changes or all these changes could affect your budget. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that real estate is very local. Even with big changes at the federal level, Atlanta's market may respond differently than other cities. So if you're thinking about buying or selling, this is a good time to talk to a local real estate expert. Understanding these trends can help you make the best decision for your situation. So as we wrap up, let's review the key points. Number one, inflation could increase due to new policies making homes more expensive to build and to buy. Number two, immigration changes might lead to labor shortages, which slows down construction projects, and ICE has already been in the news daily, and things are happening very quick. Number three, interest rates are currently stable, but they could rise if inflation gets way too high. Number four, federal funding freezes could impact affordable housing programs in Atlanta, and I'm hoping that Georgia Dream never goes away. Number five, changes to Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac could make mortgages more competitive or more expensive. We'll have to wait and see. And finally, number six, local factors here in Atlanta will play a big role in how the market will react to all of this. Real estate is always evolving and always changing, and staying informed is the best way to navigate these changes. I drop Atlanta home tours every Thursday at 6 and bonus videos sometimes on Mondays. Subscribe to see more. Tell me down in the comments how you feel about all these changes. Peace.